This is searingly powerful.
Yeah. We wanted to literally make the connection to Africa because that's where the story of the Black experience in America begins. Just the experience of being captured, chained, imprisoned,
Separated from your loved ones.
separated from your loved ones, taken away. That's why we are so insistent on having a slavery sculpture at this site, because if you do not understand the way in which this narrative of racial difference, this ideology of white supremacy was created to justify this. If you're a normal, decent human being and you see people like this being treated in this way, how do you justify that? Well, you say that these people
are not really people.
They're not really people.
Yeah.
They're 3/5 human. And that idea, which was shaped for over 2.5 centuries, is critical to understanding then what happens after emancipation. These folks were promised freedom after emancipation, and what they got instead was terror, trauma, lynching. And then they were promised security, and what they got after that was segregation and apartheid and humiliation. And then we were promised equality, and we're still struggling to see that equality made manifest.
To date, this has never gotten stuck on anyone, so we will hope. And my volunteers, please stand to the side, but do not sit down. Okay, so I'm going to tell the rest of the story. Are you okay? Great. This was put on a person to keep them from getting into the woods. If you traveled with this, first of all, you'd stick out like a sore thumb. People would know you did something wrong. You could not lay down or sleep with this. But in my mind, I had it all figured out. I had seen in the woods at times where trees had fallen and were leaning up against other trees at an angle. I figured I'd wear it, straddle the tree, and get a good night's sleep. I figured that if I came face to face with any danger, I could just simply take one of the prongs and, fight off the wild animal or whatnot. Or if I crossed a stream and I got wet, I could take off my clothes, put them on the prongs, and keep on running. So I had it all figured out. I pick it up, the man's assistants put it on my neck, and I instantly realized that I could not go on my journey wearing this thing. The reason being, if I tripped and fell, the prongs would hit the ground first and my neck would break. That was my $150 history lesson. My other one was I paraded around in this for 20 minutes having pictures taken and then was in bed for the next 3 days with a sore neck and shoulders. So we're going to take that off of you. But before we do, how do you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
If you stand this for 20 minutes, a half hour, you would be exhausted.
Okay. Thank you.
An overseer was someone who is born free, who has all the advantages and the privileges of whiteness, and yet probably not very wealthy. And so many of these overseers were people who come from very poor, impoverished families. Because it is a system of enslavement, it requires whoever the overseer is to be perpetually living in a world of violence, always ready to punish with violence, because that's how slavery works. It's forced labor. Constantly being violent all the time would lead to alcoholism, which is evident in many of the people who served as overseers at Monticello and other plantations. And you have to wonder if, after a while, it didn't just break them down. The person that Jefferson values most as an overseer was a white man named Gabriel Lilly. We have many indications of Lilly's behavior at Monticello, as he was a violent man. There's one story in particular where he beats a young enslaved man who's so ill that he could not rise from bed, and Lilly beats him about the head to force him to work. That results in the young man running away from Monticello. People come to Monticello and they really want to know, was Thomas Jefferson a good slave owner? And it is a very difficult conversation to explain that though the question comes from a place of really wanting to understand, it's impossible to be a good slave owner.
Buckbreaking was mainly utilized in the Caribbean. It was used against enslaved men who were seen as defiant. The process included forcing the male slave to bend over a tree stump, drop trowel, expose his bare behind while it is propped in the air. The slave was then flogged to tenderize the flesh for the sodomy that followed multiple times. This form of punishment was done in full view of the slave family and friends to instill fear in the hopes to prevent future rebellion. Men of bondage who were
Which one of you want to do first? I ain't for sure yet. Ain't Get you, nigga. Do it. I'll let go. Money. My mother said, pick you are it. Yes, that means you, big boy.
Just gonna say whatever comes to my mind. The first thing I'm gonna say is, you fucking Edomites, you're in a lot of goddamn trouble because you didn't just take any old nation and enslave them and put us under your feet, but you did it to sovereigns, the children of Israel. And Yasha Allah, Yah meaning he, Shah meaning prince, which is royal, sovereign. Allah meaning power or God. We are the princes of God, and you enslaved us for a period of more than 400 years. So what in the fuck do you think you're gonna get in return? You're gonna get cold fucked up. We're gonna kick your ass. We're gonna break you up. We're gonna fuck you up. We're gonna work you in the fields. We're gonna work your ass every day. And you ain't gonna get no fucking bread. You ain't gonna have no shit, man. If we decide to make your motherfucking ass work 2-3 days straight, you gonna do it, bitch. You gonna do it. You motherfuckers. You got that time is on our side, not your side, man. You can do whatever you want, but you better do it fucking quick. Because your time is up, man.